invented 150 years ago, take a moment to go ahead and do so. Type it into your chat box that's listed on the right-hand side of your control panel. So I'll just take a moment while everybody types in something invented about 150 years ago. I see that we have someone who's guessed glasses, the wheel, a light bulb. I'll take a moment for anyone else that wants to add in. So thank you for typing in your ideas about something invented 150 years ago. Okay, so we actually were, it's interesting to see what everyone types in, because when I see the light bulb or glasses or the wheel, they're all things that have been invented several hundred years ago. And many people don't realize that, surprisingly enough, the eye chart was invented 150 years ago. And we've made tremendous technological advances since 1862, when Herman Snellen invented the first eye chart. However, the eye chart is still in use today and commonly used by schools across the United States to conduct vision screenings. And we have better technology, and that's why we are pleased you're joining us today to learn about the EyeSpy vision screening program and how we are using this state-of-the-art technology in detecting and recording vision problems in school-aged children. So thank you all for joining us today. So I'm going to move to the next slide. And just a little bit about me. I'm Director of Operations, and I am a certified teacher, and I taught elementary and high school for 10 years. And during that time, I saw the devastating consequences of undetected vision disorders in the classroom and how it affected the ability of my students' ability to learn. And that's what brought me to Vision Quest 2020, and making an effort to really use technology that is up to date rather than using the eye chart. We know that there's better technology out there. So I'm going to move to the next screen. If you are new to attending a webinar, your chat box is located on the right-hand side. And here is the box where you can enter a question. We encourage your participation and questions during our webinar too. And when you have a question, there's no need to wait until the end, because if you're like me, you might forget your question. Sometimes I do. So go ahead and type it into the chat box, and I'll be monitoring questions throughout the webinar, and we're going to do our best to ensure that all of your questions are answered. Some questions we will be answering throughout the webinar, and we have also a lot of time at the end of this webinar to answer additional questions or ones that we were unable to address during the time of the webinar. Also, some of you may be logging on from a web-based interface. Your screen may look a little bit different, so it might look like this one here that I'm showing. And this is where you'll find your chat box. You'll see an arrow to where the chat box is. And also you can see where you can access materials as well. We really would like to hear from you, would like to include your input in the webinar, so feel free to ask questions, share your comments, and we're going to go ahead and move to the next screen. I always like to let everyone know we are Vision Quest 2020, and we conduct the trainings for EyeSpy 2020. So we encourage you to stay connected with us by logging onto our Facebook page, where you can also gain access to additional information. We also have, you can log on to EyeSpy2020.com, and at that website, you will be able to access additional training materials and support materials. You can look for us on Twitter at VQ2020, and also use the hashtag EyeSpy2020 with no slash in the middle. You can tweet out your questions and stay connected with others on the webinar, and others that are using the EyeSpy 2020 program. So we are always frequently looking out on our Twitter, posting new information, and looking for your questions. You can access prior trainings and informational videos on YouTube as well directly. So a little bit about us. We are Vision Quest 2020. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to early detection of vision disorders and preventable blindness in children. At this point, I would like to introduce our featured speaker, who is co-founder and CEO of Vision Quest 2020, and also the software developer of the EyeSpy 2020 Vision Screening Program. And Richard Cherendi, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
Thank you, Monica. I have a question.
You're welcome.
Are you able to hear me okay?
You know, the audio is jittery on this particular webinar today, so you're breaking up, and I'm curious if I'm breaking up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, the audio is
if you're on the webinar,
jittery.
would you type in the chat box and let us know if the audio is jittery?
And
We're going to do our best.
I did get a email from GoToTraining and GoToMeeting, the company, that did say that they were experiencing audio problems. So
Okay.
I do want to apologize to everybody because it may make it difficult to hear what we're saying, but I will try and speak slowly.
Oh,
Which is
good.
hard
You
for
know,
me to do.
I appreciate the feedback from our participants. So I hear that some are saying that it's only slightly, but still easy to understand. It's working fine for most others and not jittery at this time for them. So thank you so much.
Okay.
That helps us.
That's great. Well, I do have the distinct privilege and honor of working with Dr. O'Neill, who's a nationally recognized pediatric ophthalmologist, so he's a children's eye surgeon. And he is actually the genius behind the idea of revolutionizing the way that children's vision disorders are detected. So as Monica had mentioned, many schools in the United States are still using the wall chart that was developed 150 years ago. And there are several shortcomings that we'll talk about with regards to the eye chart and why Dr. O'Neill and I set out to develop a better mousetrap, so to speak. But my background, just to let you know, I am not an eye doctor. I'm an electrical and computer engineer by degree, and I worked in the semiconductor industry for many years, more than I care to remember, actually. And during that time, I developed and patented a lot of technology for that industry, which was very high-tech in nature. So it was really exciting for me to partner with Dr. O'Neill and bring some of those high-tech innovations to this particular endeavor, which is obviously founded and intended to protect children from undetected vision disorders and, of course, preventable blindness as well. So today, obviously, you're here to learn about EyeSpy, and we're going to jump into that, and we're actually going to go through a live demo, and along the way, we'll be answering questions and engaging with you. But, you know, EyeSpy 2020 is actually more than just a vision screening technology. It's also a database platform. And the reason why I mention that to you is because when Dr. O'Neill and I set out to develop EyeSpy 2020, we weren't just interested in accurately and reliably identifying vision disorders in children, although I will admit that was our #1 priority. But we also wanted to build a system that saved the schools time and money. And the reason why that's so important to us is because we recognize that schools are already tasked with the inordinate task of educating children, and in many cases, the school nurse is the first line of defense for children's health, because they very often are no longer being seen by a pediatrician on an annual basis. So these children rely so heavily on the school nurse, and we wanted to make their job easier. So not only did we want to develop a vision screening technology that was very easy to use and very reliable, but we also wanted to manage all of the vision screening data for the school so that you, the school, did not have to worry about backing up your data or safeguarding your data, or the inconvenience of pulling a report that might be 2 or 3 years old, because that request does happen on occasion. So we'll be talking about that in a little bit. So obviously today's training is really intended for the 3 different strata of individuals that are involved in vision screening. So that's, of course, the people that are actually conducting the vision screenings themselves. It's the school nurses that are interested in the accuracy and reliability and want to understand how this program can integrate into their school. And of course, administrators as well that might be looking at this from a district level perspective. So at this time, it would be really helpful for us if you wouldn't mind just telling us. There should be a poll that pops up, and just let us know what your role is within your school or organization. Are you a nurse? Are you actually going to be conducting the vision screenings? Are you from your IT department? Because obviously, as a software product, people are the information technology departments are often interested. Or are you serving in an administrative role? Oh, great. Okay, so we've got people from across the board, it looks like. There's no one from information technology. That's helpful for us to know. But at any time along the way, as Monica had previously mentioned, and Monica, thank you again for handling this training session, but Monica will be monitoring for questions that are coming in along the way. So, but thank you for participating in that poll. That's very helpful. And again, welcome to all of you, and thank you for taking time out of your day for this. So, given the nature of the participants on today's training, I feel a little bit like I'm preaching to the choir, and for that I apologize, because you, the attendees today, are truly the experts. So I doubt any of you are actually thinking these questions like, why do we vision screen, or why should we actually change the way that we've been vision screening, because you guys are truly the experts. But I'm going to go through this anyway. You already know this, but up to 1 in 4 school-age children have a vision problem. And the good news is that the vision problems are very often easily and inexpensively treated with eyeglasses, and then some cases you'll see children that require patching, and in very rare instances there are children that require some type of surgical intervention. But the vast majority of vision disorders are actually easily and affordably corrected with eyeglasses. Despite the fact that it is easily treated, that vision disorders are often easily treated, unbelievably, the Healthy People 2010 Progress Review Report stated that no progress had been made in the early detection of vision disorders or the reduction of preventable blindness in children under the age of 17, which is obviously the age group of children that you care for. And it's shocking until you remember that we've relegated, in most cases, the detection of vision problems to the static wall chart. And as you are all probably very well aware, in order to use the wall chart that we're all very familiar with, the picture that Monica showed at the beginning of the webinar, there is a very complex set of rules, often referred to as a protocol, that must be adhered to in order to get accurate vision screening results. And, this requires an extensive amount of training and knowledge, and most of you probably possess that knowledge already. But it is really a challenge. I commend all of you that are able to adhere to this protocol because, quite honestly, it's a very, very complicated set of instructions. And unfortunately, what that means is that if you want to use the wall chart and you want to get accurate vision screenings from children, you really ought to be certified in vision screening. You ought to be a certified vision screener. And that means that you cannot engage parent volunteers or other volunteers to conduct vision screenings, which means that vision screenings are difficult or expensive to administer. So what we wanted to do was come up with an entire vision screening model that works. And so, for example, with the eye chart, as you all know, children can peek through their fingers or memorize, or both, the wall chart, which is a problem because it tremendously impacts accuracy, right? You could have children that appear to be passing the vision screening that actually have a vision problem. Like I talked about, it requires extensive training. You have to bring trained individuals to where the students reside, which is at school, obviously. It's ultimately very costly to the child's health and to the education system because, as you have probably witnessed, there's a certain number of children that have vision problems go undetected, and those children suffer silently, and they also suffer academically. And also with the eye chart or traditional vision screening, it's very labor intensive to actually do the reporting and then report the results to the parents, and it's just a labor intensive process all the way around. So we try to address all of these things with EyeSpy. So I want to take a quick moment, which is hard for me to do, but I want to make sure that if there are any questions at this point that you feel comfortable typing them into your chat box and letting Monica know so that I address them. And Monica, you'll interrupt me, right?
Absolutely. So
okay.
Currently, I don't see that there is anyone who has typed in a question so far, so that's good news for you. And
okay.
You can go ahead and move
either
forward.
that, well, hopefully everyone's not asleep, so we'll get into the good
that
stuff
could be
now.
the other alternative.
Okay, so this is, we've already talked about some facts related to vision. So we'll talk about what age-appropriate vision screening is in just a minute. Then we're going to jump into EyeSpy 2020 specifically, and that's where I'm going to dive right in and show everyone the software. And by the time you're done with this webinar, you will be experts on how to vision screen with EyeSpy 2020 because you're going to see how simple it is. I'm also going to show you the database and reporting features that are built into EyeSpy. And then we'll make sure that all of you are very comfortable with regards to if you do have questions and you want answers or you need technical support, we want you to feel very comfortable where to get those. So we already talked about that vision disorders are common. And, there are several studies out there that suggest that up to 80% of learning occurs visually. Again, I'm preaching to the choir here. You already know that vision health is so important. And there does appear to be a correlation between low-income children and the way that they are impacted by undetected vision disorders. And we're not entirely sure what that is, but it could be that the methods used to detect vision disorders in socioeconomically depressed areas is lacking. And so that is one of the things that we're hoping to suggest. So we know that there's this disproportionality that exists, but we don't know why. Here's some other statistics that, again, you're probably aware of. One of the things that's very interesting to me is that recent scientific studies have come out that have shown that correctable vision issues are now often misdiagnosed as learning disabilities or attention-related disorders, which is very interesting to me. And of course, me as a parent, my daughter's long since out of grade school, so none of you have to worry about dealing with my daughter. But it's just very interesting that I was not aware of this when my daughter was in grade school. And this is, again, relatively new information, but it is just becoming increasingly apparent that undetected vision disorders play a major role in numerous maladies that afflict children. Everything from obesity to bullying to being labeled as learning disabled and, like I said, the attention-related disorders. So there's all these things besides just pure academic performance. So vision is very important, and again, very much aware that all of you are already aware of this. One more quick poll, and this is just going to help us know where you guys are located, because it would be interesting to know what states you're in, but in general, you can either type in what state you're calling in from, or where what time zone you're in. But the real point here is just to let you know that each state, or most states, I should say, have rules around vision screening. And so we just want to make everyone aware of that we work with within the regulatory boundaries that may, oh great, this is helpful, thank you. So all of you have responded. We've got a lot of people from Hawaii, so welcome, and thank you for calling in. So within your specific state, if there are certain requirements, and again, we'll talk about this a little bit later when I'm showing you EyeSpy, but just be rest assured that we will work with you if you have any concerns about whether or not EyeSpy can be used to vision screen children. So we've got people calling from all around the country. We've got people in Louisiana and Phoenix, so this is exciting. I'm very privileged to be talking to all of you. So let's talk about age-appropriate screening real quick. The American Academy of Pediatrics and the American Academy of Pediatric Ophthalmology and Strabismus, those are the two medical groups that are the medical experts to which we turn to for guidance with regards to establishing what we should do to vision screen children. So,
you want to move to the next slide?
I'm sorry, what's that?
You're going to want to move to the next slide, Rich, so I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I know that we still see the poll on the screen.
I'm on the age-appropriate screening slide. Is that not showing up?
Well, on my end, I'm seeing the poll still being displayed. So, okay, now we see it.
Okay, I didn't close the poll. That's my fault. Thank you, Monica.
You're welcome.
My apologies to everyone. I'm clearly an amateur. It's a good thing you're here. Okay, so in children from 6 months to 36 months of age, so from 6 months to 3 years, the idea of using an instrument-based, or what is commonly referred to as photo screening, that type of screening of a child's vision may electively be performed. Again, these aren't our recommendations. This is what the AAP and APOST recommend. Then, photo screening, or again, instrument-based screening, is recommended as an alternative to visual acuity screening in children between the ages of 3 to 5. So, in children from 3 to 5, if you are able to conduct a visual acuity screening, that is preferred. If you cannot, then an instrument is acceptable as an alternative. However, the recommendations are very clear that by the time a child is above 5 years of age, which is, guess what, the children for which you care for, visual acuity screening is the preferred method. Now, when we talk about visual acuity screening, what are we talking about? We're talking about the wall chart. We're talking about the difference between an instrument looking at the child's eyes and taking measurements and trying to evaluate for risk factors versus a visual acuity screening where you're interacting with the child and actually assessing their ability to see. So that is why EyeSpy is a revolutionary approach, because what we do is we combine the benefits of an instrument-based screening, which means it's easy to use, it doesn't require certification, with the advantages of complying with the medical organization's recommendations for school-age children. So again, EyeSpy is really intended for school-age children. So I want to show you a quick video. There is no audio here, but I just want to show you, here's a little boy sitting about 10 feet away from the computer. And as you can see, EyeSpy is a video game. It's a really simple matching video game, and children intuitively understand it. Here you're seeing that it evaluates stereo. And I'm going to go through this in a lot of detail, so don't worry, you didn't miss anything. But the idea is that what EyeSpy 2020 is a video game. And one of the reasons why that is such an important piece of information is because it removes all of the trepidation that children typically have, or I should say often have, around having their vision screened. So rather than them feeling fearful about getting their vision screened, they're excited because they get to sit down and play a video game. Now, what Dr. O'Neill and I did back in 2010, well, actually, we started this process in 2008. We sent EyeSpy off to the Medical University of South Carolina. And within that university, there is one of the top ophthalmic clinics in the world called the Storm Eye Institute. They did a study of EyeSpy. And what they found was that the EyeSpy screening results, when we use a patch to occlude the eyes, were not significantly different than those of a professional examination. So that's very exciting for those of you that want to make sure that if you're going to vision screen children, that you're going to get an accurate result that you can rely upon. Now, what's really exciting about this study was that the results from EyeSpy was not being used by doctors or nurses or qualified people like you. What they had done to conduct this research study was they actually recruited Boy Scouts off of the sidewalk, provided them about 5 minutes of training, which you'll see during this webinar, and told them, and basically had them vision screen students. So it's very interesting that we have a system now available for you that does literally require almost no training and will provide you results that are not significantly different than those of an eye exam. Now, in addition to the video game software that you download off of the internet, for every computer on which you wish to conduct EyeSpy vision screenings, you'll need a 10-foot USB mouse extension cable, because the child plays with a mouse sitting 10 feet away from the computer. You need stereoscopic testing glasses, which we provide. You need occluding glasses, which we also provide, a near stereo card, a LEA response panel, and a quick start guide. All of that is provided for you in the kits. And I'm going to explain what those are used for. But even if I did not explain what they were used for, the video game itself, EyeSpy 2020, tells you exactly what to do with those components throughout the testing process. So we'll talk about this real quick. What do you do in order to set up the vision screening? Well, I'll point out a couple things here. One is that even knowing it might not quite look like it, and you'll have to forgive my penmanship, but this child is sitting 10 feet away from the computer. So the first thing to note is that the testing distance, you need 10 feet from the child's, the bridge of their nose to the surface of the screen on which EyeSpy is running. Okay, so that's 10 feet. The distance between children, obviously you can just set this up on one computer if you want, but if you're like most implementations of EyeSpy, I'm just going to put 3 there. So you have about 3 feet between the children. okay? And then you can have one person administering examinations simultaneously, because this child is interested in what she's doing. She's got no interest in helping him, who's interested in what he's doing. So very often we will go into schools where they will have 8 computers set up side by side, and they're able to vision screen multiple children simultaneously. So this is very often what the setup looks like. You can see they have 4 laptop computers, 4 children sitting 10 feet away, and 2 proctors administering the vision screenings. One thing I want to point out here, if I could, is that you hear the children actually playing the test, playing EyeSpy 2020, and back behind them is the group of children waiting to have their vision screened. And what is nice about this is that these children get to watch these children play. And so by the time these children are done and you move this next group up to the table, they're often ready to go. You don't even have to explain what you're doing. So what I always recommend is that you start with your older children here, and you can tell I can't draw very well apparently, but you start with your older children first, and then you subsequently screen younger children as you proceed throughout the day. And so the younger children are watching the older children play, and they understand exactly what to do.
Rich, can I point out something that I'd like to add to that
sure.
as well?
Yeah.
As I'm sure it might be going through some people's heads while they're looking at this. When the children are sitting side by side, the vision screenings are completely randomized because they're computerized. So no 2 vision screenings are exactly alike. So you see the girl on the left, even her optotypes are a little bit different because the computer automatically chooses the correct optotype based on the age of the child. And even if they were using the same optotypes, if they were the same age, then they would still be randomized. So there is no way to for the child to peek or cheat. So I just wanted to point that out.
That's actually a really good point, and I apologize for not pointing that out, because one thing that I just noticed is that it looks like, because of the graphics, that the games are synchronized. And so, thank you, Monica. That's a great point. The EyeSpy 2020 is completely randomized. The cartoon sequences are randomized. The optotypes, the matching, everything is randomized, and it is customized in real time based on the child's responses. So every child is getting a completely unique and randomized test based on how that child is responding in real time. So it is as close to a certified ophthalmic technician interfacing or interacting with the child as you can get. This is this setup guide, so thank you, Monica, for that. This is a setup guide that you get, and I'm going to pause. Just the setup guide is fairly self-explanatory. I mean, it really does go through step by step, placing the computers, adjusting the screen, connecting the cable, the mouse, leaving space between the children. It's very, very straightforward. It's multiple pages. And by the way, this is one of those materials that you can download either from our website. We provide you hard copies of this, but you can also download it for your own perusal and printing at any time from our website. So, Monica, are there any questions at this point?
Yes, I see that. Sharon, I have a couple of questions here. So we're going to start with one from Sharon, and I think Sharon is in Louisiana. And is there an additional cost to use the program on multiple computers at the school?
Oh, it's a great question. So, Sharon, thank you for the question. Within a school, you can use the EyeSpy. You can install EyeSpy on as many computers as you want. So very often what happens is schools will install it on, like I had mentioned, 4, 6, 8 computers, 20 computers, it doesn't matter. You will need a vision screening kit for every one of the computers on which you're installing it. But you can also install EyeSpy in the school nurse's office. And the advantage to that, although you might not be conducting vision screenings in the nurse's office, the school nurse will have access to all of the vision screening reports in real time. So he or she can actually pull the vision screening reports, pull summary reports. I'm going to show you all of that in a few minutes. But no, the short answer is there's no additional cost to use EyeSpy on multiple computers within your school.
And then the next question, I love this next question from Renee Matson, and she's asking, are you sure the child can't play the game without doing what you want? My children used a lot of educational videos and told me when they were older they figured out quickly how to cheat so they could just play the game and not have to learn. And I love that question because that sounds a lot like my kids too.
Yeah, actually, Renee, thank you. That's another really fantastic question. And in fact, Renee, you perfectly articulated, so thank you for that. You perfectly articulated exactly why it is insufficient for us to continue to vision screen children with the static wall chart. So your question is perfect because you're absolutely correct. Children can memorize, and your children are clearly very smart. They're honest with you, and they told you that they could figure out how to cheat the system. And, you know, Monica's kids did the same thing. They did that with the static wall chart where you can simply memorize the letters in sequence and you know what to read, and it appears like you can see. EyeSpy 2020 does not allow you, there's no way to cheat the system because every single game is different. Every single game is completely randomized. So even if you try to guess your way through, it is statistically impossible to do so. And by the way, when I show you EyeSpy 2020, even if you cheat your way through the visual acuity portion of the test, I'm going to show you a portion of EyeSpy 2020 that is you absolutely cannot cheat, because either you can see this next portion of the test or you can't. And again, with everything being randomized, there's no opportunity for memorization. So, Monica, did you want to add anything to Renee's question?
No, just that there is no built-in pattern as to how things appear on the screen, so there's no pattern to be memorized at all. And as a matter of fact, the computer will adjust in real time to each individual child's responses. So I hope that answers it. Well,
right.
And I think that's all our questions for right now.
Okay, good. And if there's more questions, then we'll address them along the way. What I'd like to do is I want to jump right into showing you EyeSpy 2020. In the past, what we would do is kind of talk about it a little bit and then show it. And I think the best thing to do is actually just jump right in and show you what EyeSpy 2020 looks like. So I've just launched EyeSpy 2020, and I had just done a vision screening with someone, and we didn't have enough space at 10 feet, so that's why that message is coming up. So I'm going to set it back to 10 feet. And what I want to do is just go through and show you exactly how to use EyeSpy 2020. So even if you've never used EyeSpy 2020 before, when you're done with this, you're going to see exactly how to use it. So I'm going to proctor an examination, so I'm going to put in my name, and it automatically capitalizes it for me. If my school required student ID, they would check this box down here that says require student ID, and then I would have to put in the student's ID. So this particular student is 1232, and this student's name is John Davidsonville, very common last name. And we will say that John was born on August, and I'll say August 10th. And by the way, I am not typing in slashes. It is automatically putting the slashes in for me. So just so that you're aware of that. And I'm going to say that he was born in '09. And when I get out of that field, now it fills in the 2009 for me. So it makes the data entry process very quick. Now, I am going to show you how to expedite this data entry process completely, but I just want to show you this is how you would type in the information. I would select the child's grade. And by the way, if I accidentally get the birth date or the grade wrong, then the system will flag me by telling me that I need to click here to verify or fix the date of birth and or grade. So I got his date of birth correct, but I accidentally clicked 5th grade instead of 1st grade. I can put in his homeroom teacher name, or so the teacher name or homeroom number or whatever information. I select the student's gender and then indicate whether or not the child's wearing glasses. In this case, I'm going to say he's not wearing glasses. But I could say he's wearing glasses, forgot the glasses, or lost or broken glasses. So once I've entered this information into the system, that's all I need to do. Now, everything else is set up automatically by the computer. So I'm going to begin the screening, and I'm going to take you through a very quick vision screening just so that you can see every step along the way what happens. The first thing that it tells you is to make sure that the student is not wearing any eye patches or occluders or colored glasses at this time. So you press enter, and now the child will you can tell the child to pick the character that they want to play, but very often the kid, they already understand that this is what they're supposed to do. So they'll pick the character they want to play.
Oh, okay.
And the first thing that EyeSpy 2020 does,
Yeah.
hold on, I need to mute someone out, I think.
I went ahead and muted them out. They're having some audio issues.
Okay. So the very first thing that the student does, and if you know, with young students, you might want to explain this to them, but clearly with the older students, I mean, by the time they're already familiar. So all you're going to do is have the student move the mouse left or right, and once they've lined up the match, they click the button, the mouse button, and the game automatically proceeds. Now, neither eye is covered at this particular point in time, so I'm gonna run through the game very quickly. So what we're doing, this portion of the test, what we're doing is we're making sure that the child understands that it is a matching game. So we're verifying comprehension, and we're also making sure that the child can see at a minimum of 20/80. If the child either doesn't understand or their vision is worse than 20/80, we pop a message up on the screen asking you to verify that the child understands that it's a matching game, and then we will attempt a rescreen automatically. If the child cannot demonstrate comprehension or their vision is above 20/80, they will not be able to play that portion of the game, and it will create, it will generate a referral for that child at that particular point in time. It will recommend that that child be seen by an eye care professional. Now the child understands that it's a matching game, so we place a patch over the child's left eye. We do this with those occluding glasses that we provide you. So now we're testing the student's right eye. And what you're going to see is that the optotype at the bottom of the screen that they are being asked to match is randomized. It's completely randomized, and it gets smaller over time. And it does this all automatically. So even if you don't know how to, even if you've never done a vision screening before, the test is doing all of the going down the wall chart, so to speak, for you in an automated way. It will go all the way down in this particular setup. It will go all the way down to basically threshold. We can also do critical line testing, but most schools like to do threshold testing, which is to say, are they able to see, you know, how well is the child able to see? We want to know specifically, not just are they able to see adequately for their age. So I'll explain those two differences later on. Now we're going to move the patch over the student's right eye. So now we're testing the child's left eye. And so we're going to go through the same process. The child just plays, matching up. The system is measuring how long it takes the child to make every response, so we know whether or not the child is having trouble, if there's accommodation problems in one eye versus the other, because both eyes should perform, as you know, somewhat similarly. Okay, if I get one wrong, it's going to get a little bit bigger. I'll show you that. Now, the child has now demonstrated that they've got adequate visual acuity in both eyes. So now we've indicated that we wanted to assess color vision on this child because he, for example, he's a boy in first grade. So the first two plates, you don't have to test color vision on every child. It's your prerogative. So the first two color plates that I show are color plates that even a child with color blindness, mild to severe color blindness, should be able to see. But the next sequence of color plates can detect or will detect mild to severe color blindness. And so we are statistically, if the child gets the answer wrong, we go through a repeated set of color plates to statistically verify, because the child may have misclicked. So we don't want to refer a child just because they accidentally clicked the button prematurely or lined it up wrong. We want to give them an opportunity to demonstrate that they actually have good color vision. And that's true with all of the tests, visual acuity, color vision. And now the last part of the test, which is to say, and again, the instructions are provided. So even if you've never done this, you just follow the instructions. It says, place the colored glasses on the student. And now we do stereo testing. Now, I don't have my stereo glasses on, so I can't see the image that's embedded in that stereogram. So I just guessed as best I could, and I got it wrong, no surprise. So now there's that stereo printed card that we talked about a few minutes ago, and all you do is you show that child the stereo card at a close range. If they can't see the stereogram at 10 feet, which is, you know, again, all of EyeSpy, the video game, is played at the distance of 10 feet. So if the child fails stereo acuity at 10 feet, then you just show them the printed stereo card at 18 inches, and then you have them indicate whether or not they can see the shapes. And the reason why stereo testing is so advantageous is because this is where we're able to detect whether or not there are very subtle vision problems with the child's vision that we otherwise would miss if we were just using the wall chart. So again, I know I'm speaking to the experts, but things like eye alignment, cognitive parallel processing of the data from both eyes, in other words, making sure that the child doesn't have eye suppression issues. So these very subtle things like eye alignment, cognitive processing, this is testing the vision system of the child holistically. And that's why we do this. We incorporate this into EyeSpy. I'm going to say that the child cannot see stereo. So I'm going to press the letter B, because I just want to show you what pops up on the report. What pops up on the report that's instantly generated is an area that says eye professional use only. And in fact, I'm going to print this report for you because I want to be able to show you this report up close. I want to show you exactly what it looks like. And this is the report as it would look, as it would print out of your computer. And this is the section that I was talking about. So that's the child's information, and this is the eye professional use only. And this is important information because obviously what we're hoping is that the parents will follow the instructions provided that says if your child's not currently under the care of an eye doctor, that a professional eye examination is recommended. Here's the results. The results is that with both eyes, this child sees 20/20, right eye 20/20, left eye 20/25 plus 1, good color vision, but failed stereo. So this is why the child is recommended to have an eye exam. And then the eye doctor would fill this out and return this information back to the school, because this is valuable information for the school nurse to be aware of, whether or not there needs to be accommodations made for the child, like sitting up at the front of the classroom or anything along those lines. So I just wanted to show you that this is what the actual printed report looks like.
Rich, will you show the report in Spanish?
Oh, yeah.
We had a question come in that if we could put them in Spanish, and absolutely at the end when a report comes up, and Rich will show you right now, you simply push S on your keyboard and everything's translated into Spanish.
Yep. So, and I don't know if you can see that. I can print the report again, but everything, I can't tell how small it looks like on everyone's screen. So what I'll do is I will.
It's in Spanish.
You can see it's in Spanish. Okay, yeah. So yes, everything is printed in Spanish and made available. And that, by the way, so when Monica asked me to do that, there are two more things that I want to show you about EyeSpy. If I wanted to rescreen that student, I could press this immediate rescreen button. Now, if I do that, all of the information is immediately populated, and then I can say, oh, okay, now he's wearing his glasses. Let's do the test over.
You know, that's a good segue into a question from Renee Masson. She wants to know, do you have a follow-up protocol built in with this program? Now, you know that you're talking about rescreening. Do you have a follow-up protocol built in with the program?
There is no protocol built into the program because there is a tremendous amount of variability. This is a question, this is philosophical in nature when you talk about whether or not you should be rescreening children. Here's the rule of thumb. If the child cannot perform academically, for example, they have conjunctivitis, or they have the flu, or they've got a seasonal allergy that's impeding their vision, they've got watery eyes, there's something else going on, a severe headache, that child should not be screened. They should not have their vision screened. So I understand that some schools have implemented protocols that say if a child fails a vision screening, don't refer them, rescreen them in 2 weeks. And what we suggest is that you don't even vision screen them to begin with. That way you know that you're vision screening children that should be able to see. And if they do not pass the vision screening, then that referral goes home with the parents immediately. It goes home to the parents with the child immediately, because time is of the essence. And if you think about it, if you can't see the blackboard or the whiteboard, whatever's in schools these days, then 2 weeks is an eternity. We want those parents to know immediately that their child is having a vision problem. So we don't vision screen children when they come in with crusty eyes. We vision screen them as soon as their eyes should be able to, again, they can perform academically. We vision screen them, and that's what's sent home. If the student were to fall out of the chair, or there's a fire alarm, or something otherwise invalidates the test, and you want to rescreen the child, that's what this button is for. But the protocol within EyeSpy automatically rescreens the child throughout the screening process. So the end result is an accurate result.
And Rich, Renee Matson says, she says, my apologies, I meant, do you have a protocol built in to show whether or not the child received the professional care they needed?
Oh, well, geez, I could have just gone on in circles and talked about the wrong thing. That's a great question. She needs to work with us more. We are actually in the process of working on that, and we're not sure how long that development effort will take. It's probably 1 to 2 years, because that requires interfacing with the doctor and providing an it's very complicated, but the answer is no. So right now, if I pull up reports and I look at students that I vision screened, which guess what, this is the only student I vision screened, there's nothing here to indicate to me that that child's been seen by the doctor. The only thing that I could do is pull up the report, but there's no record keeping at this particular point in time with regards to recording and tracking medical follow-up. It's a great question. Great question, and we are working on that. But there's two other things about EyeSpy that I want to show you. One is, rather than, am I okay to go on, Monica?
Yes. I wanted to note too, though, that when you're vision screen a classroom of children or a large group of children from your school, then as you vision screen them, their name drops out of the menu. So if you were to go back in, you can take a look at, did this particular child receive a vision screening or did they not? So those records then are separated so that you can find them easily. So there is a way to see who has a vision screen and who hasn't.
If you've uploaded your roster, which is what I'm about to show you, so that's actually an excellent point. So rather than typing in, remember what we did here, we were typing in the student's information. What Monica is referring to is this button which says select student from a list. So the advantage to this approach is that it tremendously expedites the data entry process, because if you're vision screening, let's say Van Kotz is the teacher, so Van Kotz, so I typed in Van, so now only Diana Van Kotz students are showing up, okay? And now I want to vision screen Jenny. So I double click on Jenny. See, now all of her information immediately populated, so I don't have to type anything in. All I have to do, and by the way, this is all fake data, that's why none of this is matching up. But now all I have to do is indicate whether or not Jenny is wearing prescription glasses or not. And that tremendously expedites the vision screening process, because now all I have to do when that vision screening is completed, it automatically is returned to this list, and Jenny would be off this roster. And so what Monica is saying is that if you're ever wondering which of your children or students have received a vision screening, if you upload their roster and you're selecting children from this student selection list, then this list will shrink over time. As you know, if I vision screen Hector, he no longer appears on this list once the vision screening is complete. So you can print that roster at any point in time, and that's going to show you exactly who has been vision screened and who hasn't. So I'll show you that real quick. So here's a roster, and these are the children that have not yet been vision screened out of Diana's classrooms. So again, this roster will shrink over time, and then your report, the list of students in the reports section will grow as you vision screen more and more children. Now, the advantage to this system, if I put in, I'm going to put in a big date range. I want to pull records from last year. And there's a lot of fake data in here. None of this is a real school, so I'm not violating HIPAA or anything, but I just want to show you where, you know, here's a vision screening that was conducted in August 7th of last year. I can double click the record, and that is the actual report that was generated at that particular time. Again, it's available in Spanish or English. But here's the power of this particular data reporting feature. This is available to you on any computer running EyeSpy, not just the computer on which the vision screenings were conducted. Also, all of this data is automatically encrypted and backed up for you. So if something were to happen to your computer, you don't lose access to this data because it's being maintained in a HIPAA-compliant repository for you. There's a couple features that I'll show you real quick because these questions come up. Let's say that this particular student, Jason Terendi, let's say I misspelled his name, and he's one of those cool kids that spells his name with a Y. So I just need to correct the report. I can confirm that change, and let's say that the real teacher was Richardson. So I'm going to confirm that change, and then when I come here and I update the report, because I just have to update the database, and then I go and here's the corrected, see now that Jason is actually correct and Richardson is the teacher. And if I double click that, so you can modify typographical errors. You obviously can't change the vision screening results, that goes without saying, but you can certainly fix typographical errors very easily. This is the child that I vision screened today. So again, it's giving you an exact visual acuity. So if I select that child, you'll see, again, I cannot, here's the record, I can't change the vision screening result, but something typographical. Now, if there is a vision screening record that I want to delete, you can delete it from your data, from your database. So let's just say that you did a fake vision screening. So, you know, this one is, you know, some fake screening that you had done. Okay, it was a test. You just select that student, you go up to edit selected info, you say delete screening record. Now there's a warning here, right, about this can't be undone, blah, blah, blah. So remember, non-expiring version is what I'm doing, and I'm going to say yes, and it's warned me that I can't do it. I go back here and I refresh my records, and that is gone. I don't know if you remember that, but it was version. It was down here after Derek. So you have this ability to filter. By the way, let me just show you this. So you've got all these hundreds of vision screening, thousands of vision screening records over time. You just want to look at first graders that didn't pass. So this is a list of all your first graders. Oh, I've got a second grader in there. I apologize. It's the way that the filtering system works. So you can filter the list however you want. And let's say second graders. Let's see if I've got some third graders in there too. Anyway, you filter this list however best suits your needs, and then you can print a summary report. You don't have to filter it at all. You could print a summary report for everyone if you wanted. But this is what a summary report looks like. And again, I just want to show this so that you have an idea. This is one of the benefits of having the data system managed within EyeSpy. I'm also going to show you that these records can be exported into Excel. And I'm just going to minimize this. So this is the summary report that we just talked about. So this is exactly what the summary report would look like as it's printed. And you can see it's got the date, last name, date of birth, result, grade, teacher, proctor information, all of that. The header on each report page tells you for what date range did you pull vision screenings, when the report was actually created, how many records there are. So it's very informative, so you won't lose track of the reports that you produce. And then the other thing is that you can actually dump it into Excel. I apologize, I should have clicked yes on that. And this has all that information plus a whole lot more detail information about whether or not they were wearing glasses, both eyes, right eye, left eye results, stereo result. So this has got a ton of information in there that you can then manipulate and use however you desire. So your data is never held captive in EyeSpy 2020. You can do with it whatever you need. So that is EyeSpy. That's how you conduct a vision screening. That's how you select students from a list, and that's how you access your data. And that is pretty much all there is to EyeSpy 2020. There's some other features as well, but if you would like to see more of the, let me just show you real quick, and I apologize for this. Hold on, let me show you.
So, Rich, we have a question from Lynette, and she wants to know do the results transfer to Synergy, or do I have to buy an additional program?
They will transfer to Synergy. When you ask to dump your data into Excel, export your data into Excel, it will ask you if you want to create a file for Synergy, and you just say yes. Now, Synergy is a little bit of a specific issue, not an issue in a bad way, but just to let you know. Synergy requires the use of a generic conversion tool, which Synergy will not allow us or anyone else to write or to access their database directly. So we cannot talk to Synergy, nor can anyone else directly. So what we have to do is create a file which then your IT department would run through the generic conversion tool, which is a Synergy product, which will then bring the records into Synergy. So if you contact us separately or after the webinar, or email us, we would set up a conversation with your IT department so that they could be aware of exactly how to manipulate that file within the generic conversion tool to bring it into Synergy. But the answer is yes. It will export data into Synergy.
And will you explain, we had a couple of questions of what Synergy is to those who don't use Synergy in different areas of the United States?
Yeah, so Synergy is a student information software system that's in use by many, many schools. It's made by a company called EduPoint. It used to be called Genesis, and they changed the name to Synergy. There's other companies that have similar products like HealthMaster, ChipAZ. There's a number of companies. So it's basically the student information software system that's in use. So if you've got a particular software system that you want EyeSpy to interface with, and it doesn't currently do that, then we can talk about making that happen. One thing to keep in mind, though, is that when you export your data into Excel, we have many, many schools that just simply manipulate this file to meet the requirements of their software import system, whatever it may be, and they change the column headings and they save the file however is necessary, and they bring it into their software information system themselves. There's a lot of information, obviously, that I haven't covered, just in the, because of the constraints of time. So just make sure you feel comfortable going to EyeSpy2020.com or VisionQuest2020.org. It's the same website, and this is what the website looks like when you arrive, and you just click on EyeSpy 2020, and this is where you can scroll down and find all the information that we're talking about, including the complete user's guide. And in addition, if you wanted to view previous training sessions, depending on how the audio of this training session comes out, you can click on this button right here, click to view previous training sessions. So I'm going to go back, and Monica, you just make sure you interrupt me if
okay,
if
so I'm going to interrupt you. I'm going to interrupt you quickly because I had another really good question that some may have noticed or may not have noticed on the reports. And Elise asked, when looking at the report, I noticed some say fail and some say pass. Does it say on the report what aspect of the test was failed? So, for example, stereo or visual acuity, left or right eye.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. So yes, that is exactly what the report says. It will tell you exactly what failed, what passed. So, you know, in the section that says overall vision evaluation, this is the instructional section for the parents, but down here is where you get specific about what the child passed and what the child failed. So in that demonstration example vision screening, you know, we passed visual acuity, we passed color, right? It says pass color vision, but stereo, we failed. So yes, you're not just going to be given a pass-fail result. You're going to be given very explicit detail about why the child is being referred for professional follow-up. I'm going to skip through these slides as quickly as I can because by virtue of the vision screening that we did, you have already seen all of this. So we don't need to talk too much more about that. This is where I was going to give the live demo. This is where I was going to talk about the data reporting features, but again, I wanted to just do that with a live demo rather than talk about it theoretically. But again, you already saw this. This is where you can print customized summary reports, right? So these are the summary reports that you can generate, the individual reports at any point in time, dumping the data to Microsoft Excel, and in answer to some of the questions, we can also export it to other secure databases. In the case of Synergy, it has to go through another software program called a generic conversion tool, and then off to the software. But this is all facilitated by the fact that there is a centralized HIPAA-compliant repository. So your data is safe and accessible 24/7, and only you have access to your data. So I want to make sure that we leave plenty of time for any types of questions, but this is what I referred to just a few minutes ago. For those of you that are looking for a ton of detail and explanation and all of that, there's this complete user's guide that you can download. And if you're looking for information to distribute to your parents, in addition to the vision screening report themselves, we have this resource available, which is really good information. We provide you the quick start guides and the near stereo cards and the response panels, but if that ever got lost and you just wanted to download it and print it yourself, you could do that. This is where you will download the software, but and I'll talk about that more in just a second. Most of you are already familiar with the surveys and also the link that you have to click in order to register for this training. But this download for the software, this is also provided to you in the form of an email. So don't feel like you have to remember any of this. Everything is provided for you when you are issued EyeSpy 2020. When your school acquires EyeSpy 2020, the appropriate personnel are provided emails with download codes and all types of information. So just so that you know, you have unlimited access to all of that information that I just showed you on the website, including videos. You can send us as many emails as you want, and we do what I hope is a good job answering them. I certainly think we do. You can attend as many of these online training sessions as you wish, and you can have as much of your staff or volunteers or whoever wants to attend these online trainings, more than welcome. Each school is allowed 1 hour of telephone support. This is very infrequently needed, but we're more than happy to chat with you on the phone and make sure that you're using the program successfully. So we just, we have no problem with this at all. But the good news is that the program is fairly straightforward, and that's very often not necessary. But again, if you've got specific questions that we cannot do via email, and by the way, one other thing to let you know is that we can also do remote sessions into your computers with the permission of your IT department. So even knowing we're located in Phoenix, Arizona, this program is literally used around the world, and so we can remotely access your computer and help you get through whatever technical issues may be there. So again, I want to thank all of you for attending. And Monica, if you want to talk about our contact information and anything else, then I hand it back over to you unless you have more questions.
Okay, so I don't currently see any other questions, but if you do have a question, feel free to type it in right now, and we'll make sure we answer that, as we do have a couple of more minutes available to answer some questions. If you prefer, you can email me directly at mhecker@visionquest2020.org or Richard Cherendi at rcherendi@visionquest2020.org, and those are up on the screen for you right now. You can also download support materials at EyeSpy2020.com, and you will receive an email with a link to the recording of today's webinar for you to share with your colleagues or anybody else who will be vision screening and may want to access the webinar but could not log on today. So on behalf of Richard Cherendi and VisionQuest 2020 and myself, I just want to say thank you for joining us and taking the time to learn more about EyeSpy 2020. And we look forward to your emails and your questions, and to those of you that are implementing it in your schools, we look forward to supporting you with that this year. So thank you very much, and you all have a good day.